Side. I'm your host, Brianna.
I'm Dyson.
And this is Dark Adaptation. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us for part 2 of episode 58, where we've been discussing the the disappearance of Walter Collins, and soon to be the Wineville murders.
All right.
Or the Wineville chicken coop murders, or whatever you want to call it. Dyson's here to give you a debrief and let you know what we discussed in part 1.
Oh, man.
I'm just kidding. I'm just watching you look at me like, the fuck are you about to say?
So there's this place called Lincoln Park Arcade.
Oh, no.
And,
nope.
oh, my God. Just thinking about it just makes it... Just thinking
me?
about it makes me feel like I'm crawling through my skin. You know what? And it's just,
Do you feel numb?
I do feel numb. I want to collab with Jay-Z and his Blueprint album.
Mm-hmm.
I might just fucking kill myself.
He feels like he can't wake up.
Can't wake up.
Okay. No. I'm just going to go right into it because the people are probably... Like, for us, it's been like 9 minutes.
Yeah.
But for, everyone listening, what's up? It's been like a week, so...
Gotta give the people what they want. Gets the people going.
Yeah. So, in part 1 of the OJ... No, I'm just kidding. It's not. I'm going to stop doing that. It's not even funny. In part 1, we discussed the disappearance of Walter Collins from the Lincoln Heights neighborhood of Los Angeles, which was on March 10th, 1928, and he was last seen on his way to the cinema. We discussed the absolute hell that Christine Collins was going through thanks to the incompetent and corrupt LAPD. And one of their corrupt plans included telling Christine that they had found her missing son, ultimately forcing her to take home an imposter. And after 3 weeks, Christine brought that boy back to the LAPD, saying, yo, this is not my kid. And she was armed with evidence that the child was not Walter. And instead of believing her, Police Captain J.J. Jones had locked her up in the psychiatric ward at the LA County General Hospital against her will for 10 days.
Jesus Christ. Could you imagine this happening today?
Oh
Holy
my God.
Fuck.
No.
It would just be such a shit show. It already is a shit show, though.
I don't even have words for if this happened today. It's
yeah.
No, I can't imagine it happening here. Or
yeah.
I hope
not that
America.
we don't already have serious issues going on, but oh my God, could you imagine?
Fucking nightmare. You know what's also crazy is this is 1928 and that's almost 100 years ago. Isn't that wild?
Yeah, well, how long did 21 Jump Street come out?
Probably like 10 years ago.
It's a decade and a century.
My name's
That's
Jen.
what we're dealing with right now.
Like the 21 Jump Street with Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill.
Channing Tatum.
Magic
Mike.
2012. Oh my God.
Oh.
Oh.
That was like 3 years ago, right?
Yeah, that's it. And then the TV series was from 87 to 91.
All right.
Anyway, that's not what this is about. Although
No.
I would love to do a movie podcast. Oh my God. Yo, I would actually be so good at a movie podcast.
I believe it.
Okay. Anyway, so back to part 1. After handwriting analysis, after handwriting analysis was conducted, that's fine. I'm a human. We'll leave it in.
Okay.
The imposter child finally admitted that he was actually a 12-year-old runaway from Iowa named Arthur Hutchins Jr. And he said that he had pretended to be Walter so he could escape his father and stepmother and move to LA so that he could be in the movies and meet his Hollywood idol, Tom Mix.
I'm going to go look up Tom Mix at the end of this.
Tom Mix is he is a cowboy star from
right.
the 20s, but even before the 20s, maybe early 20s, until I think the 50s.
Yeah,
Actually,
okay.
no,
That makes...
not even until the 50s, because he was mostly a silent film cowboy.
Okay.
He did fucking a fuckload of movies, but he only did a few that were like the talkies, you know?
Oh, okay.
That's all I know.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was picturing like a Ronald Reagan type when he was an actor.
Oh my god, I always forget that. Here, I'll just...
Yeah.
Tom Mix. Look at this man's. That's a cowboy right there. American film actor.
Oh my god, this is like quintessential like cowboy,
Yeah.
you know, in the movies type picture.
According to Google, Thomas Edwin Mix was an American film actor and the star of many early Western films between 1909 and 1935. Yeah, see, I was way off. He appeared in 219 films.
Whoa.
And all but 9 of them were silent. So, you know, I had some bits here and there.
God,
He was Hollywood's first Western star and helped define the genre as it emerged in the early days of cinema.
Oh, that's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's Tom Mix for you.
Thanks, Buckaroo.
So that's who this little imposter was hoping to meet. I hope he never met him.
Me
And I
too.
hope that when he did, Tom just spit in his fucking face. No, I'm just kidding. So, part 1, back to that. Wow. Yep. I'll tell you what, we haven't recorded in a while, and we're just like,
so just like usual.
Okay, true. We have no excuse. This is who we are as people. You're here for a reason, I suppose. And hello. Okay, Christine was finally released from that hospital after, like I said, 10 days, which is fucking crazy. And when she was released, she filed a complaint against the city, Captain Jones, and Police Chief James Davis. And the complaint was heard by the City Council's Health and Welfare Committee, who recommended the removal of both Captain Jones and Police Chief Davis.
They released a statement saying, "I apologize for lying." And that was it.
They absolutely did not release any statement. They quietly suspended Captain Jones. Oh my god, I keep saying James. Captain Jones for however long, but the complaint against the city and Police Chief Davis were dismissed.
Right.
And now, when we left off in part 1, I told you that around the same time that the imposter, Arthur Hutchins, had admitted to impersonating Walter, the LAPD learned of a case that was coming to light about 50 miles east of LA. A serial killer named Gordon Stewart Northcott was discovered in Wineville, California, and he had been kidnapping, sexually abusing, and murdering young boys on his chicken ranch.
Yeah. It's dark. It's a yikes.
It's a oof. It's a oof. In the words of Dyson, this is dark, it's a low, and it's straight up gonna get pretty gruesome. And I'll be mentioning violence against children, so just take care when listening. And yeah, I meant to mention this in part 1 as well, like that the reporting on this is like, I mean, it's 1928.
Yeah,
the reporting varies a lot.
Yeah,
so
the standards weren't there, you know?
They sure weren't.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm telling all of this like in the best way I can, just based on the sources I read, what was the most sort of like consistent themes and stuff. But especially applies to this episode when it comes to the Wineville murders. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, we are in the O.J. Simpsons of our time. Simpsons? Plural?
Whoa.
Whoa.
All right. So California authorities learned of Gordon Northcott because in early September 1928, which is 6 months since Walter had vanished, a Canadian woman named Jessie Clark had contacted U.S. authorities to tell them that 2 years prior, 1926, her brother, Sanford Wesley Clark, who was 13 in 1926, had been kidnapped by her uncle, Gordon Stewart Northcott, who was 20 at that time, and was being held, Sanford was being held on a ranch in Wineville, California.
Okay.
So Jessie said that she was reporting it now because she'd been worried about her brother. So she decided to go to Gordon's ranch to check on things. And in the few days that she stayed there, she found out that her uncle was abusing her brother.
Mm-hmm.
And her uncle was involved in something just absolutely sinister.
Oh, no.
So let's start this with Gordon. So Gordon Stewart Northcott was born, I don't know. I've seen both, like all 1906, 07, and 08.
Right.
And just based on the articles I've read and saying like what age he was at what time, I think it's safe to say he was born in 1907. But
okay.
Either way.
So that's a safe bet, and there's a little asterisk next to it because
Basically.
reporting at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
What do you want from us? We can't go back there.
At least I'm just being straight up, okay, guys? Like, my God. Also, it's Gordon Northcott. You're going to hate him by the end. So, basically, who fucking cares when he was born?
Yeah, fuck this guy.
You know what sucks, though? He's Canadian.
Yeah.
He was born in Bladworth, Wow, I almost couldn't.
Saskatchewan.
Jesus Christ. Bladworth, Saskatchewan. Did I say that weird?
No, that was pretty good. Bladworth, Saskatchewan.
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 Fucking
Saskatchewan.
shit. But he was raised in British Columbia.
Mm.
In 1924, he moved to LA the Los Angeles area, with his parents. And in 1926, he purchased a plot of land in Wineville, California, which, like I've mentioned, is about 50 miles east of LA.
Mm-hmm.
So he purchased this plot of land because he wanted to build a chicken ranch and a home with the help of his father, who was in the construction business.
Mm-hmm.
And he also employed the help of his nephew, Sanford. And it was under that pretext that Gordon brought Sanford from Saskatchewan to California, saying, like, just come here and help me, like, build my ranch and my house. Like, it'll be great.
Yeah.
And then once he arrived, Gordon just basically kidnapped him and began to abuse him both physically and sexually.
Yeah.
And at that time, like I mentioned, Gordon was 20 and Sanford was 13.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time the ranch was complete, Gordon lived in the home on the property with his mother, Sarah, and Sanford was trapped there too. And I have no idea where the father was. He did not live on the property as far as I know, but he helped build it. But like where he was, couldn't tell you.
Okay.
While residing at this chicken ranch, Gordon abducted an unknown number of boys and molested them. Typically, after assaulting them, he would drive the victims home and let them go.
Mm-hmm.
But at least 3 of them were murdered at the ranch.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone thinks it's way more, but at least 3.
Okay.
He was also known to have, quote, wealthy customers from Southern California who rented these boys from the ranch.
Okay.
And Gordon gave up all the names of these wealthy people, but their identities were like protected and they were never published.
What? Wealthy people being protected?
What? In 1920s?
What, man?
Dude, you're lying.
No.
Disgusting.
I don't even want to follow that one up.
That's disgusting.
It's fucked.
Also, like, straight up, Gordon Northcott is fucked. So, like, it's totally possible that he was lying.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know.
Right.
I also think it's totally possible that people with money would absolutely pay for young boys.
Yeah. You know, I can't think of any instance recently in which something like that has occurred.
Hey, you don't talk about Jared from Subway like that.
I was talking about Epstein.
I know. That's not funny at all.
Well,
our sense of humor is just
he's
deranged.
dead. That's kind of funny.
Epstein, yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck Epstein and fuck Jared from Subway.
Yeah.
Fuck Jubway Sarah. Jubway Sarah.
Yeah, fuck you, Jubway Sarah.
And your stupid fucking jeans.
Fucking
I don't
dead
ever
fish.
want to see you
Cold fish.
holding up those goddamn jeans. Fucking freak. Why was Subway Jared even a thing? America, I'm sorry, you're weird.
I got skinny by eating loaves of bread. Like, way to go, guys. That was fucking brilliant.
I choked on my wine.
Oh.
Choked on my wine. My name's Jiv. Wow. Okay. Yeah, like I said, who knows if we can believe exactly what Jordan? Oh my God.
Gordon. Gordo.
Gordo. The references is just like ADHD. Like.
Oh yeah, yeah. Gordo is a Chef Ramsay reference. All right.
Nothing like Gordon Northcott.
Mm-mm.
So, Sanford's older sister, Jessie, had become suspicious of the letters that Sanford was forced to send home to Canada that was, assuring his family that he was well, everything was fine. She became suspicious of the tone in some of the letters. In other letters, she became suspicious straight up because the handwriting was, like, not Sanford's.
Yeah.
So she was naturally, like, very concerned for her brother's welfare. So she ended up traveling from Canada to the ranch in late August 1928 to stay several days and just check on her brother, which kudos to Jessie, because if I found out that my brother was in some sort of like weird position, I would fucking move the earth to go and make sure that he was okay.
Right.
So one night while Gordon was asleep, Sanford told Jessie that he feared for his life and that Gordon was fucked, that he had boys on the ranch all of the time and that he had even murdered 4 boys on the ranch.
Ugh.
Once she returned to Canada a week later, because she couldn't get Sanford out of there, Jessie informed an American consul of Gordon's crimes and everything that Sanford had told her. And the consul then wrote a letter to the LAPD detailing Jessie's sworn statement. Initially, there was concern over an immigration issue, that Sanford was in the country illegally. So the LAPD contacted the United States Immigration Service to determine facts relating to the complaint. They didn't care. That Jessie was like, yo, straight up, my brother, who's 15, is being sexually and physically abused by my uncle, who's holding him there captive, and is telling me that he's assaulting and murdering children. And they were like, sounds like an immigration issue.
Yeah, what, did he come over here illegally? Oh. Jesus.
So the LAPD was like, we're not...
Sick fucks.
I can't believe you're in this country.
You need to show paperwork when you cross that line? You make me sick.
It's just so in vain with the LAPD. They were like, should we ignore everything Jessie said?
Hey, man, 1920s LAPD. If there's anything they fucking hated, it was foreigners.
Canadians included, apparently.
Absolutely.
I thought they just wanted to build a wall south.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that I don't relate to the LAPD.
Yeah.
I'm so happy you don't have to. I don't even know what to say.
Hey, let me tell you a little story about the RCMP in the western part of this country.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Corruption, man.
Corruption, man.
So the LAPD, like I said, contacted the United States Immigration Service because they're like, why the fuck should we have to deal with this if we could just pretend we only care about the immigration part? Then we can easily just pass it off to the U.S. Immigration Service, and they have to deal with it.
100% that's what they were doing. They're
Of
like,
course.
oh man, we've been fucking up so bad lately. Let me tell you. Why don't we just get the federal government to take this one?
Yeah, we hear that, like, Sanford's Canadian.
Sounds like an out to me.
So on September 15th, 1928, the Immigration Service inspectors visited the ranch, and Gordon saw the agents driving up the very long road to his ranch. So he had time to grab his mother, Sarah, and they fled into the tree line at the edge of the property, and they told Sanford to stall the agents, or he'd shoot Sanford from the tree line with his rifle. So Sanford stalled the agents for 2 hours, but realizing that Gordon wasn't returning and realizing that the agents might actually be able to help him or protect him, he told them that Gordon had ran away with his mother, so likely wasn't coming back. So they had the police come as well, and the police took 15-year-old Sanford into custody, where he told them everything he knew. He told investigators that his uncle kidnapped him and had been physically and sexually abusing him. He also told them that Gordon had kidnapped, raped, beaten, and killed several young boys, and had forced Sanford to watch and sometimes even participate.
The cops must be just shit. Well, they must be just shitting themselves.
It is the police at this point.
Yeah. Just hearing this, being like, "Oh, fuck."
Yeah. So
and then they're only focused on the kid lying to them and stalling them.
I mean, I don't have that as a note, but that would not be surprising.
It checks out. I'm just saying it checks out. I'm not saying who did it. I'm not saying that's historical truth. I can't ascribe guilt. I'm just saying it checks out, you know?
The LAPD is like listening, nodding, like, yes, and Gordon was abducting children and assaulting them. And it's been really crazy here, and I've been held against my will. And the LAPD is like, wait, you're telling me
he's from Canada?
You're telling me you stalled us for 2 hours?
That's it. Code 12. Code 12.
Oh my God. Sanford's like, did you not hear anything else I said? Okay, so Sanford said that among the boys that had been abused and murdered on the ranch were Nelson and Lewis Winslow. Do those names sound familiar?
They do sound familiar.
Those were the brothers that had disappeared from LA's Pomona neighborhood. And their parents were the ones that were receiving the weird letters. That was like, we just are missing because we want to be famous. And, oh, don't worry, we're just going to go to Mexico. Also among the boys, Sanford said that had been murdered on the ranch was Alvin Gothea. That's the 15-year-old whose torso had been found under the burlap bags in La Puente.
Right, yeah.
Sanford,
this is not looking good.
No. Sanford also said that among the boys murdered and abused on the ranch was the missing Walter Collins.
No. I knew we were going there. I just didn't want to hear it. This poor woman. This poor mom. God damn it. And Walter, obviously, but shit, man.
When Sanford said that when Gordon was done his abuse on the boys, or he'd gotten bored of them or whatever, he would lead them into the incubator room to, quote, see hatching chicks. And then when they were distracted looking at the incubating eggs of the chickens, he would bludgeon them with an axe.
Oh my fucking God.
And
that's dark as shit.
These are boys.
Yeah.
These are children.
It's dark as shit.
To destroy the evidence, Gordon covered the bodies in quicklime, and then Sanford told the police that they could find graves of these boys near the chicken coop on the ranch, and these graves were for the Winslow brothers and for Walter Collins.
Okay.
Detectives went to the ranch to look for evidence that corroborated Sanford's story, and they dug in the area identified by Sanford as the graves, and as they were digging, they found blood-soaked earth, hair, a human ankle bone, and finger bones. And pathologists later determined that the bones were from young male children.
Okay.
No complete bodies were found, though. It was just these, like, random fragments.
Does that mean, like, he disposes them separately like that?
Yes, it does.
Oh. So he dismembered them then?
I don't know if he dismembered them. Basically, what Sanford is saying, and Gordon sometimes saying and sometimes not saying because he's fucking crazy, is that the graves would be dug, they would put the bodies of the boys in them, and the quicklime would, like, dissolve them.
Oh, right, yeah, okay.
But later on, we hear testimony from Sanford and Jesse, who say that one night Sarah, the mother, and Gordon dug up the graves and took the bones to dispose of them in the desert.
Okay.
But they missed a bunch of them. So there's like all these like random parts.
Yeah.
So
that's fucked.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, that's why there was no complete bodies found.
Okay, gotcha.
While the detectives were on the ranch property searching among the farm equipment, they found an axe and a hatchet that had human hair and blood on them. Inside the house, personal effects of missing children were discovered, including a child's whistle, several Boy Scout badges, and a library book checked out to one of the Winslow boys.
This is the creepiest shit ever.
Yeah.
Ugh.
While detectives were searching, they also found more letters that were addressed to the Winslow boys' parents.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
Yeah.
I don't know what they said, but
So he had like a stockpile of these things?
he had made, before he murdered them, he had made them writ out a bunch of them.
That's so creepy, and that's so alarming because he's like, that shows like, I'm not saying he's methodical, but like, that's a degree of methodical. That's planning it out. Mm-hmm. Holy shit. To like planning it out to continue doing this.
It's disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, on the property, in the house, in the barn, all of that, detectives did not find anything that could be linked to Walter.
Okay.
The only thing they had is Sanford saying that Walter was one of the boys on the property. And it's pretty good testimony because he's also saying, oh, for sure the Winslow brothers were victims on the ranch. And then they're finding the library book with the Winslow boys' names in them. So,
yeah. It's pretty much...
Yeah, it's at least decent testimony.
Yeah.
Gordon and Sarah weren't on the run for very long. Canadian police arrested Sarah in Calgary, Alberta on September 19th, 1928, and they arrested Gordon at Okanagan Landing in British Columbia on September 20th. And then, due to errors in the extradition paperwork, they were not returned to LA until November 30th.
Oh my god.
Over 2 months. Wow.
This really was an immigration issue.
While these two
pieces of shit,
thank you, were being held in British Columbia awaiting extradition, Gordon had confessed to murdering 9 boys on the ranch. Sarah confessed to her participation in the murder of Walter Collins. But then before they were finally extradited to California, they both recanted their confessions.
No, take backsies.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that, just kidding. Then after they were extradited to California and they were back there, Sarah confessed again, but this time she claimed to have killed Walter on her own. Her son had no involvement. Gordon's totally innocent. She killed Walter all by herself. She actually pled guilty to this. She was held in jail, and then she was scheduled to appear before Superior Court Judge Morton for her sentencing hearing on December 31st. Okay. So it just went straight to a sentencing hearing because she was pleading guilty and she basically skipping a trial and all of that.
Yeah. We know what happened. We're just gonna go right to punishing you for this.
Exactly.
Nice.
Meanwhile, police took Gordon back to his ranch to prompt him for more information because even though he had recanted his confession, he had verbally confessed to 9 murders while he was in custody. So they were like, we'll just bring him back here and maybe he'll change his tune or start talking again. So once at the ranch, he verbally confessed to 5 murders instead of 9, saying,
What fucking difference does it make?
I cannot even begin to understand Gordon Northcott. He's just wait. He is fucked, and so is Sarah. They're both they're fucking like, they're not people.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he was like, oh, I know I said 9, but I meant 5.
5.
And
which is such an obvious lie.
Like it's any different than 1.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You're a fucking sicko murderer.
Yep.
So he said that among these 5 were the Winslow brothers, Walter Collins, and Alvin Gothea. He told police that he had kidnapped boys to rape them and kill them by bludgeoning them to death with an axe when he got bored of them. And then he told them that he would use quicklime to dispose of their remains before transporting the bones to the desert. So all of that corroborates what Sanford had told them.
Mm-hmm.
And then that goes to what you were asking about, why there weren't all of their remains. And it's because they put them in the grave, use quicklime, and then dig them up again and transport the bones to the desert. But there's so many bones, like you're not going to get them all. Also, he's probably just an idiot. He added that he'd kept Walter's body inside of his house for 3 days before burying him, and added that he did all of this with all of his victims with the help of his mother.
I don't even know how to digest that.
Just wait.
That's real fucked.
So they were down on the ranch. They took him back to the police station and were like, you have to sign and write your confession. You've said 9, you've said 5.
To illegal immigration.
Oh my God. He was a legal immigrant of a legal migrant? I don't know. He was legally in America. He had moved there at this point 4 years before.
Okay.
But Sanford was not. Poor Sanford. I actually feel bad for Sanford. So he's back at the police station and they're like, 9, 5, don't care. You've confessed to murdering. Here's paper, write it down.
Yep.
So in a written confession that day, he said he'd only killed 1 person.
I knew that was coming.
I could see it in your face.
You're
like,
knew it. I knew
waiting, like, what's the number now?
Yeah, as soon as they took him off the goddamn farm and was like, all right, put it in writing.
He said that he'd only killed 1 boy.
Mm-hmm.
It was Alvin Gothea. That's sadly the headless boy.
Yeah, I've only killed 1 boy, like in the most brutal fucking way possible.
It was only 1, and like I only decapitated him. Like,
yeah,
what the fuck
is that?
Shut the fuck up, Gordon.
He's not bright. He's obviously fucking lost it. If he's like, that's the one.
I don't even have words. This is probably one of the more like dark ones we've covered in a while.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like I've been landing some good fucking jokes for this whole segment, and then we're getting into this shit, and I don't dare. I could never.
This is
like it's fucked up.
Line.
Like none of this is funny at all. It's just like Jesus Christ, and none of the murder's funny at all. But Jesus Christ, this is some dark shit. This guy's
foul.
A piece of crap.
On top of being a just dirtbag murderer, these are boys.
Yeah,
they are children.
Yeah, holy fuck.
You are a monster, and he's saying his mother has helped him with all of it. His mother? Like, how do you get 2 monsters under one roof like this?
And it was Mrs. Baker all along. I'm kidding. I don't know who Mrs. Baker is, but I know I'm not going to besmirch her name like that.
Is the neighbor from Lincoln Heights that saw Walter, but
throwback to part 1.
My word, Scout's honor.
Yeah.
She does not make a reappearance.
No.
Mrs. Baker is probably just a sweet old lady who likes to make a good old classic American pie with some cheddar cheese on it.
You know what, though? One day, you're going to tell me a story, and like midway through the story, like the fucking Undertaker, the lights are going to go out, and you know who's going to fucking come up from a fucking out of the midst of fog? Fucking pig lady. You're gonna throw her back into the goddamn story for me.
I'll probably have to make up a story, but I could do that for you.
I'm in for it. Anyway, back to this really dark fucking story.
Yes. So Gordon was taken back to that police station. He was told to put his confession in writing, and that's when he was like, okay, I only killed one boy. I only killed Alvin Gothea.
Just one.
And that was on February 2nd, 1928. And I'll plead guilty. Okay? I did it. I'll plead guilty to Alvin Gothea.
Oh, I see the strategy at least now. It's a shit one, but...
And then, meanwhile, Sarah's sentencing hearing had arrived.
Mm-hmm.
And Sarah testified that she bludgeoned Walter with an axe and buried him near the chicken coop where they were known to bury all of their sick and dead chickens, which is just just salt in the wound.
Mm-hmm.
You're fucking sicko psychopaths who have taken a child, murdered him after doing God knows what to him, and you're just gonna bury him in a place that you also put your sick or dead chickens.
Yeah, it's fucking horse shit.
Ugh.
It's like burying someone in a pet cemetery.
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
And she was like, I did that all on my own. Gordon is innocent. Like, don't try Gordon. Don't charge him with anything. Don't do anything with Gordon. He is innocent.
And like, meanwhile, he's like, I confess to the one murder of another child.
Yeah, because she's like straight up incarcerated at this point.
Yeah.
They can't communicate in any way to like corroborate stories or try and get shit in line. So
yeah,
it's just a shit show between that alone. But then just, ugh, she's just disgusting. Like, fuck her. She's a mother herself.
Yeah.
Like, it.
Well, you know.
Ugh.
Yep.
So at the hearing, the sentencing hearing for Sarah, Sanford testified that Sarah had told him and Gordon that they all had to quote, strike a blow when it came to murdering the boys, so that they'd all be equally guilty if they were caught. Right. Sanford reiterated that Gordon had kidnapped, raped, beaten, and murdered 4 boys with the help of his mother, and even admitted that he had helped because he's literally forced to. He's only 15.
Yeah, this is fucked up. This poor fucking kid.
I know. Sanford also gave details about the murder of Alvin Gothea, saying that Gordon had forced Sanford to dispose of Alvin's decapitated head by burning it in a fire pit, and then was instructed to crush the skull, like, into pieces.
100% that he asked the kid to do it because it's the most gruesome fucking one. That's so This guy's such a fucking cowardly piece of shit.
So while he made Sanford do that with the head of Alvin, Gordon took the body and, quote, left the headless body by the side of the road near La Puente because he had no other place to put it. So confirmed that body under the burlap bags is Alvin Gothea that Gordon put there.
Right.
Superior Court Judge Morton sentenced Sarah to life in prison on December 31st, 1928, sparing her from execution because she had pled guilty, and also it's the 1920s and she's a woman. So he just said life in prison is good.
Yep.
And after sentencing, Sarah had attempted suicide and begged the authorities not to go after her son, not to try her son in any way, and not to execute him, especially because he was innocent.
I hope she fucked up in the most painful way.
Yeah.
And, like, survived.
She definitely did not, like, complete suicide in any way.
Yeah, okay.
But it's just demented, this unwavering, like,
why would
I don't even know, like, for her son, because, like,
just shows how, like, good she was with doing this, that she was like, I'm gonna cover for him. He's gonna keep doing it.
I straight up do believe that she was involved in some of it, though, especially if, like, things got out of hand.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, she was good with it. Like, she was active, happy participant. It wasn't just like a mom covering. No,
she was in there with it, and for sure Gordon was like the ringleader of it all. I totally believe he was the one going out getting these boys, selling them off to other people, or doing the abuse himself, but when it came down to like, shit, now I gotta get rid of this kid, his mom was right there. And I do believe Sanford when he says, like, you know, Sarah said, which is his, like, Sanford's his grandma.
Yeah.
Like, don't forget that. Sanford is his Sanford's grandmother is Sarah.
Yeah.
And she's saying, like, come on, everyone, fucking family affair. Everyone get a blow in because then we're all guilty.
Yeah.
This is a nightmare.
Airtight logic, too.
Fucking nightmare. This is like some Texas Chainsaw shit.
Yeah, this is fucked up.
The state chose not to prosecute Gordon for Walter's murder since Sarah had already, you know, confessed to it and was in prison for it.
Yeah.
And it is believed that Gordon killed as many as 20 boys, but the state could not produce evidence to support that speculation. So ultimately, they brought an indictment against him for the murders of Lewis and Nelson Winslow and Alvin Gothea. So the three.
Yeah.
In January 1929, Gordon's trial was held before Judge George R. Freeman in Riverside County, California. And this is not shocking at all, in typical psychopathic and narcissistic fashion, Gordon fired 3 successive defense attorneys and insisted on
representing himself.
Exactly.
All right, here we go.
He was like, fuck these people. I'm going to defend myself.
On a side note, this is my gift to you listeners. If you're ever bored and you're like, I don't know what to do with myself, what should I do? I recommend you find a compilation of YouTube videos where defendants are defending themselves. It is the most entertaining shit I have ever seen in my goddamn life.
So, people who attended the trial described Gordon as smart and confident, but it was obvious he was just there because he liked the attention, basically. And he got a huge kick out of fucking with the jury and the press, which made him look like an ass. And it further bolstered the prosecution's claim that he was a sinister, pathological monster who just wanted to put on a show.
Yeah, which is normally the outcome of representing yourself.
Yeah.
This is why you need an attorney.
Exactly. From the prosecution side, the jury heard that Gordon had kidnapped, tortured, and murdered the boys in 1928, including hearing testimony from Sanford and his sister Jessie. The evidence found in the graves near the chicken coops was shown to the jury, which consisted of, quote, 51 parts of human anatomy. Those silent bits of evidence of human bones and blood have spoken and corroborated the testimony of living witnesses, end quote. Basically just saying what we found and where we found it exactly corroborates what Sanford told us.
Yeah. Yeah, which is like, it just shows like why he decided that's the spot where he wants to put the people, these fucking kids.
Children.
Is because like anyone seeing him walking over there, he'd just be like, oh yeah, this is where I bury the chickens. I'm just burying some chickens. And like they'll see bones and he'll be like, they're chicken bones. Which is fucked.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So Gordon, of course, took the stand to defend himself, telling the court that sure, he'd abused young boys, but he had loved them too.
Oh,
your face is priceless.
Why the imagine being in that room.
No,
you'd want to throw up.
Yeah, you'd want to throw up and throttle him. Just like, you're just foul.
It's such a reverse of like what you see on like court TV, where like the defendant or the like victim families or something will like lunge at the accused or something. It's just the jury like ready to flash mob them.
Yeah.
Which I'd be fine if they did, to be quite fucking honest.
Me too.
Yeah.
On top of him getting up there defending himself, talking about how he loved these boys, he even had Sarah, his mother, testify. And when she was on the stand, she gave this bizarre account of how she was not Gordon's mother, but his grandmother. Her husband had raped their daughter, and Gordon was, quote, the result of that union.
Oh.
According to Sarah, Gordon's father sexually abused everyone, including sodomizing Gordon and passing him around to male family members.
Okay.
Incest was a common theme in the Northcott's testimony, as Gordon hinted that he'd had an incestuous relationship with his mother.
Ew.
I know.
Oh.
Gordon just loved giving these like over the top provocative stories and really getting a rise out of the jury and everyone, basically.
Oh, he's just like, the papers are gonna love this.
Yeah, he was interested in putting on a show. He was not interested in revealing the truth, which goes to what I was saying, I think multiple times, where I'm like, who the fuck knows if we can trust anything that these two say?
Mm-hmm.
They're out of their goddamn minds.
Yeah.
And I mean, she's just a terrible witness. I don't even know how she was allowed on the stand. She was completely unreliable. She was unable to tell Redwine, who was the prosecutor.
Mm-hmm.
She could not tell him how many husbands she's had. She couldn't tell him the name of her children. She's just out of her fucking mind. And the only consistent point that she was making was that Gordon is innocent. That's it. Gordon is innocent. He had this horrible childhood, yada, 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 and he's innocent.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know this, but he's innocent. That's it. And nobody was buying into any of their wild claims.
God. Yeah.
And least of all the jury. On February 8th, the 27-day trial ended with the all-male jury convicting Gordon of the first-degree murders of the Winslow brothers and Alvin Gathia. So it was an all-male jury because prosecutors had argued before the trial started that the details of the case were way too gruesome for female jurors. And they were like, you know,
yeah, 1920s, they got it.
Weak disposition, they could not possibly handle what we have.
It'll throw them into fits of hysteria.
We already know they're suffering from the vapors.
Again, Brianna, I need to tell you.
Favorite.
That's the southern thing.
It's my favorite thing. Suffering from the vapors.
My word, I believe I have a case of the vapors.
I just love it. Fine, women are hysterical, and they all need to be code 12.
Yeah,
Better?
Code 12 them. Not better. No, it's not. It happened, but it's not better.
On February 13th, 1929, Judge George R. Freeman sentenced Gordon to death. During the trial, the state of California concluded that Walter had been murdered on the ranch, but, you know, Gordon denied killing Walter Collins, and Sarah, who was literally in prison, life in prison, for the murder of Walter, she'd attempted to rescind her confession multiple times. So it's just the fucking game that these two are playing. Of like, I did it. No, I didn't. Yes, I did. And here's how.
Yeah.
LOL, JK, didn't do it. Yes, I did. Here's actually how. And like, they're just like,
just fucking with the system.
They're just infuriating, these two.
They're giving me the same fucking like, oh my God, you fucking assholes vibe as like the Dellen Millard case.
Oh,
where you're just like, shut the fuck up. Like,
I do want to cover that case.
It would be,
the murder of
because that was
Tim Bosma, Wayne Millard, and Laura Babcock, I believe.
Yeah.
I would like to do that one because I've heard a lot of coverage and other podcasts who do that case, and they do not do it right.
Yeah. Plus, like, we were in
it.
Yeah, we were in it. We're right in the area where this happened, and
literally
it encompassed
Dellen Millard and Smitch, whatever the fuck his first name is.
I forgot his name was Smitch.
They literally drove through Brantford.
Yeah.
Like, and I remember going through in 2013 the Tim Hortons drive-thrus and stuff, and seeing the flyers for Tim Bosma when he was missing about looking out for his truck and looking out for him because he was taken from Ancaster, which is like, what, 20 minutes from here?
Yeah. Yeah, like literally, yeah. Like 20 minutes on the dot.
Mm-hmm. And man, oh, okay. I'm gonna
Yeah,
get
like
totally
to put it in
sidetracked.
reference, like my gym membership is in Ancaster.
Yeah, exactly. You
Like
go to
we're
Ancaster.
right there.
I
Like,
should cover that. Oh my god, should I do that one next?
yeah, that'd be a good one.
Okay.
All right.
Anyway, so anyway, back to like nearly 100 years ago. Yeah, Gordon was found guilty. He was sentenced to death. Sarah's in the background screaming and crying about it and saying that she didn't actually have anything to do with Walter's death, blah, blah, blah. These two fucking cry me a river.
Mm-hmm.
The convictions, though, they didn't really bring closure to the families because they have no bodies to bury. They don't know 100% because it's 1928. It's not like they can just test their remains and make sure that it is who they're dealing with. They have no like bodies intact. They don't know exactly where they're located. And it was hard for the families, especially having to go through this disgusting trial where Gordon and his mother are basically making a mockery of it.
Yep.
And the Winslow boys' father, Nelson Sr., actually led a lynch mob to the jail to demand that Gordon reveal the location of his son's bodies, threatening to hang him before the state could have a chance to. And
weird that you got me cheering for a lynch mob, Brianna.
well, I mean,
yeah. I don't blame him. I'd want to fucking string him up too. Holy fuck.
Especially just like I said, the way he's making a mockery of all of it.
Yeah, you just want to fucking throttle him.
And I don't know if Nelson Sr. and his wife had other children, but even if he did have other children, he wants to know the location of his sons, plural, bodies, plural, 2 of his children. 2.
Yep.
All the while wondering where the fuck are my kids? I don't believe the letters I'm receiving are from them. And you have this piece of shit who's defending himself and making a mockery of the fucking court and of the trial. And, oh, I did it. No, I didn't. Yes, I did. No, I didn't. And I don't even blame him for getting a lynch mob and being like, I'm going to fucking hang this guy by his toenails myself.
Yeah.
Like, it's just devastating. So the police obviously came and was like, yo, please disperse. Trust me, I get it, but you gotta disband. Like, we can't do this.
Yeah, no, stop.
So I don't know what the police said, but they did convince the lynch mob to disband. And then Christine Collins, she refused to believe that Walter was one of Gordon's victims, especially because there was no evidence of her son found on the Northcott ranch. And then you have Gordon, who's repeatedly denying that he murdered, that Walter was murdered there. And you have Sarah, who's like, I did it. No, I didn't. Yes, I did. No, I didn't. So Christine, likely for her own sanity as well, is like, no, he didn't. Walter did not die there. My son is still alive.
Yeah.
Christine corresponded with Gordon on and off over the next few months, and he would repeatedly lie and then confess that he did kill Walter, and then lie some more and say, I did not kill Walter. Actually, my mom did. And then he would say, no, neither of us did. I never even met your son. Then he would recant everything he said and say he's innocent, and so on, over the few months that Christine was trying to just correspond with him. Yeah. Infuriating. Like, I don't even know what else to say. Yeah. And yeah, that just repeated. On October 1st, 1930, on the eve of his execution, Gordon sent Christine one final telegram saying that he had lied when he denied that Walter was among his victims, and he promised to tell her the truth if she came to hear it in person. So Christine was the first woman in over 3 decades to be granted permission to visit a serial killer on the eve of their execution at San Quentin. Okay. And she got there. And when she arrived, in typical Gordon fashion, he said, quote, I don't want to see you. I don't know why you're here, and I don't know anything about it. I'm innocent.
Yep. Yeah, it checks out.
It is foul. This guy had nothing fucking better to do than to literally mess with her.
Do you think that maybe like when they put him on the chair, they could just, I don't know, half the juice? So like, they got to do it again.
To be hanged.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Maybe a bungee cord then?
The rope is way too long.
Yeah.
He just breaks. That's a new word. He just breaks his ankles when he hits the ground.
Oh, that'd be beautiful.
So after all of this fuckery, this corresponding with Gordon, Christine concluded in her mind that Gordon was basically demented and insane.
Mm-hmm.
He had never met Walter, let alone kidnapped and murdered him, and she clung to that hope that Walter was still alive and she would find him.
Yeah.
23-year-old Gordon Stewart Northcott was hanged at St. Quentin State Prison on October 2nd, 1930. And before the trap was sprung, he screamed, "A prayer! Please say a prayer for me!" And I imagine that's what he sounds like.
You know what I would have done if I was the executioner? I would have paid someone in the crowd like $10 to run up to the platform and be like, wait, waving a letter saying, "I have a letter from the governor. He is not to be hanged." Just kidding.
That would have been I wonder if they ever did anything like that. Because just think about it, especially like at this time, like hangings and shit were probably like a public spectacle. Wait, is that too late for the 1930s?
It's probably too late. It's not like a take him to the town square and hang him type deal.
So.
I think it was probably like to be hanged and like, because like 1920s is like
well, it's 1930 now.
What's that one with "Give me your hand, boss"? What was that one? What was that movie? Green Mile?
Yeah.
I almost said the like 8th Mile or something.
Yeah.
The
Yo,
Green
boss,
Mile,
give
like
me your
that's
hand. I'm White Rabbit.
yeah, like you know how they like, they take you to a room and that's the end of you type deal. Like I think that's what it was. Like you got hanged, but it wasn't like,
well,
here's everyone, come on, gather around, about to hang the criminal.
he still screamed, "A prayer, please say a prayer for me." And I hope everyone went, "Okay, dear Lord, please send this fucking piece of garbage straight to hell."
Dear Lord,
Sorry
it's
for
a great day
lying.
today.
Can you please hang his mother next?
Yeah. Give her gangrene or something.
In 1935, 5 years after Gordon's execution, one of the boys he was accused of killing was found alive. So, not tried for, because he was only indicted for the Winslow brothers and Alvin.
Right, because they went with like, we have the ability to prove that he did this, not that we think he did it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So the LAPD had thought he likely killed up to 20 boys. Mm-hmm. So one of the boys that had been missing and kind of fit the criteria that they believed was murdered by him was actually found alive.
That's amazing.
So 7 years earlier, in 1928, which is the same year that Walter had gone missing, this boy had gone missing and his parents reported his disappearance to the police. So at the time the boy's disappearance, they speculated he might have been a murder victim of Gordon. Mm-hmm. They were like, it all fits.
In the area, this is happening.
Exactly.
All these kids are going missing and they're being killed.
And yeah, so 7 years later to find out that that boy's actually alive, mm-hmm. that news was really like invigorating to Christine. She was like, that's amazing. This is like basically reigniting this hope that maybe Walter
is alive,
has a chance and he's still alive.
Yeah.
Poor Christine.
Yeah, I know.
She's just her whole life. She's just fighting.
This woman went through it. This is so fucked up for her.
There is no words to describe.
Yeah.
What she has gone through.
Yeah.
It, like you said, left turn, right turn, fucking curveball, mm-hmm. whirlwind.
Yeah.
And she's smack dab in the middle of all of it.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's time to tie up some loose ends and talk about what happened after the Northcott trials with Christine and everyone else involved in this fucking wild tale.
Yeah.
So, in part 1, we discussed that the complaint Christine filed against the city and the police chief for the false imprisonment and god-awful handling of Walter's case, it was dismissed. The complaint was. But Captain Jones was suspended, and I mentioned that Christine was not done with him.
Mm-hmm.
So the complaint turned into a lawsuit. And after 2 years and 2 trials, on September 13th, 1930, Christine won the lawsuit, with the judge awarding that Jones pay her $10,800.
I knew it. Oh my god! If fucking $70 was like 1,000.
10,000. So $10,800 in 1930.
$150,000.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah.
It's 190.
Ooh.
Yeah, 190,000.
Good for her.
See, you are getting better. I told you.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Sure.
You are. So she said that she planned to use that money whenever he paid her to continue looking for Walter.
That's really fucking sad.
You know what else is sad?
What?
Jones never paid her that money.
Get the fuck out of here.
He constantly complained that he was broke. He did not have any money to pay her. And deep down, I think Christine knew that he obviously is a fucking shisty character,
Mm-hmm.
and that she wasn't going to see that money. So instead, she would just keep on summoning him back to court. Like every year, she was like, "You're not going to give me that money? Fine. I'm going to make... Basically, I'm going to be a fucking huge pain in your ass. I'm going to be a thorn in your side.
Mm-hmm.
I'm summoning you back to court every few years to make you explain your failure in paying me and have everyone know that it's because you're broke and whatever."
Yeah.
And
I'm going to drag you through the fucking mud for this.
yeah. And as a result, basically the court would just kind of tack interest on the money that was owed.
Mm-hmm.
But she basically just wanted to publicly humiliate him over and over again, because I do believe deep down she knew she was never going to see a cent from him.
She basically can take solace in the fact that he's going to die a poor, disliked man.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Unsurprisingly, though, you know how we have been talking about how the police commission didn't suspend the police chief and the city didn't get in trouble or anything like that, but Captain Jones was suspended.
Yeah.
He was reinstated to the LAPD. And I doubt that his suspension lasted very long. And like you had said, I bet he was like suspended with pay.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's just what like you and I are saying. I don't know, but I doubt that he had any sort of actually painful.
Yeah, look deep down inside yourself and ask yourself, do you really think that these people suspended him without pay?
So at least Christine, every year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it worked out to, she was like, fine, still going to drag you to court though. Still going to make you take time out of your day. Still going to drag your name through the mud.
Mm-hmm. You're never going to be a goddamn police chief. Goodbye to all your fucking ambitions.
I love Christine.
Yeah.
I love this woman. She's like the strongest person ever.
Mm-hmm.
So, the next sort of like loose end or whatever we can tie up here is Arthur Hutchins, which is the kid that was impersonating Walter. So Arthur Hutchins had been sent back home. His shitty stepmom came to get him. And by the time he got home, which was in Iowa, and he attended the Iowa State Training School for Boys, where he was enrolled in a rehabilitation program for juvenile delinquents.
He is a fucking delinquent.
Yeah, just wait. So in 1933, when he would have been like about 17 years old, he wrote, like, I don't know if it was like a letter or a statement. I'm not exactly sure where this was written, but he wrote that he had impersonated Walter to escape his stepmother. Quote, a person doesn't realize what a hell this world can be at the hands of a stepmother that doesn't love or want you. End quote. Which, that is really sad, especially for a 12-year-old boy. But in this, like, statement letter thing that he had written, he failed to mention that he was also running from the police because in that summer, 1928, he was arrested for stealing. And upon release of his arrest, the police had required that he check in with them once a week, but instead he ran away to Illinois.
Okay.
In the letter statement, whatever, that he wrote, he apologized to Christine and California for his deception.
All right.
As an adult, Arthur sold concessions at carnivals, and then he moved to California where he worked as a horse trainer and a jockey and started a family before passing away from a blood clot in 1954. So he would have been maybe 38.
Oh, that's really young.
Yeah, that's a baby.
I was going to say, like, oh, what does he have, a fucking movie life? He has this, like, show-stopping spectacle at an early age where he pretends to be some other missing child, and then he becomes a carny selling concession stuff, and then he
gets to California,
goes
which is
and
what he
becomes
wanted.
a jockey. Wow, that's wild.
Yeah. So that's what happened to Arthur.
Okay.
Sarah Northcott. Ugh. I'm already mad.
Stubbed her toe every single day.
Yeah. So she served her sentence, her supposed life imprisonment sentence.
No.
At oh shit! I didn't look up how to say this. Okay.
Penetanguishing.
That's Canadian. Tehachapi. Tehachapi.
That's what we're going with.
So she served her sentence at Tehachapi State Prison and was paroled in 1940. She didn't even serve 12 years.
Wow.
But guess what? She died 4 years later in 1944.
Good.
And I hope it was painful because fuck her. She's disgusting.
Deeply regrettable that it was not behind bars, but okay.
She's disgusting. Like, I cannot stand these two.
That's not justice at all.
No,
like,
it isn't.
She didn't even die in prison and, like...
Still got to be free for 4 years before she died.
Yeah. That's fucking horseshit.
Sanford Clark, the fucking... Just... I can't even imagine what this fucking kid went through. Because by the time he had told police everything that Gordon was doing, he was only 15. So from 13 years old to 15 years old, he was trapped on that ranch with Gordon and Sarah, two absolute nightmare people.
Yeah.
Being exposed to God knows what.
Yeah. Abuse, murder.
Like, just take a minute and put yourself into when you were 13 to 15 years old. That's a nightmare.
That'll fuck you up for life.
So he was never tried for his involvement with the murders because the assistant district attorney, Loyal C. Kelly, believed that Sanford was innocent. He said that Sanford had absolutely been a victim of Gordon's, and the like death threats and the constant abuse was obviously so much for Sanford to have had to gone through. Yeah. And that Sanford wasn't a willing participant in any of the crimes.
No, he was fucking 13. He was at the very least coerced to do it.
Exactly.
Like, at the very least, he was forced to fucking do it.
It's like, what do you do? You are in a different country.
Here's a bunch of people that are raping and murdering little boys, and you're a little boy. You're a little boy
who's also getting assaulted and beaten every single day. Yeah. And you're probably sitting there, like, at that point, like kind of delusional, like, well, I mean, at least I wasn't murdered.
Yeah.
Like, it's fucked up.
Yeah, it's super dark.
So that is what the assistant district attorney thought, was like, just imagine everything this fucking kid went through. He didn't want to do anything that he was involved in. So instead, Sanford was taken to the Whittier State School, where an experimental program for delinquent youths was underway. And he was sentenced to 5 years at this like youth correctional facility.
Right.
But his sentence was commuted to 23 months as he, quote, had impressed the trustees with his temperament, job skills, and his personal desire to live a productive life during his nearly 2 years there, end quote.
Okay.
After his release, only been there for 23 months, he was deported back to Saskatchewan.
Right. Okay.
You would,
Because this is an immigration issue.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's all this was.
Right. Yeah.
So that must have felt so good for him, though. Did not have to do the whole 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's less than 2, just less than 2.
And like, I don't know, like
and you get to go home
and
to
like
another country.
And the like institution that's like doing these programs like likes you or like more or less likes you.
Mm-hmm.
So like you may actually sort of get some benefits out of it, like because you're
you
at that age of like
already commuted.
Yeah, but you're at that age where you need like skills and
Mm-hmm.
shit, right? So like I don't know. Hopefully he got some, and hopefully it benefited him. But Jesus Christ,
yeah, he seemed to have taken there and took it very seriously. And at that point, like this means that by the time he was released, he probably wasn't even 17 years old yet, or was maybe just 17.
yeah.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's so sad and scary.
Yeah.
And all of this because his uncle was like, I know you live in Canada, I know you're in Saskatchewan, doing whatever, but like, I'm in California, it's nice down here, I'm trying to build a ranch and a house.
Yeah.
Just come and help me, it'll be fun.
Hey, come on down. The weather's different. It's not freezing your ass off in the middle of the 1920s.
This is what happens to you.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like it is like a nightmare to me. This is fucked up.
This is insane.
So, yes, like I said, after he did this like 23 months at this basically youth correctional facility, he was deported back to Saskatchewan. Sanford went on to serve in World War II.
Mm-hmm.
And then he worked for the Canadian Postal Service for 28 years.
Nice.
He got married to his wife, June, and they adopted and raised 2 sons together. They were married for 55 years, and together they were involved in just a fuck ton of different organizations in Saskatchewan, doing just like good deeds, charity work, all of that.
That's fucking great.
Then Sanford died on June 20th, 1991.
Whoa.
At 78 years old.
Yeah. That's pretty good for then. That's pretty good.
He's just a wonderful, like, shining example of going through
it.
Yeah. I don't even know how. I thankfully did not have to go through anything he did.
Yeah.
And he came out on top. He did his job, his duties. He went to serve in World War II, worked for Canada Post, got married, adopted children, and worked in like organizations and charities, and was married for 55 years. Yeah. So like, I'm happy for Sanford.
Yeah, I'm really glad that he had a good story to come out of it. Like a good, like his story is a good one. He didn't come out with a great story like, boy, do I have something to tell you guys. Yeah.
Gordon and that fuckery aside, if you just look at Sanford and who he is and what he did, it is a good story.
Yeah, he's a good fucking human being. That's awesome.
God.
Yeah, I know.
Great. Who's next here on my list? Okay. Gordon. I just put this in here because I thought it was interesting. Like, I don't really know where I'm going with it, but Gordon's father, who
was a cold fish.
Maybe, I don't really know, because I'm just confused by Gordon's father, because in 1924, Gordon moved with both of his parents to LA. And then in 1926, Gordon bought the land where he was going to build his ranch and his house. And his father helped him because he was in the construction business and whatever. So, like, obviously seems decent. of a relationship. But then during the trial, him and Sarah are saying his father like abused him and all that.
Yeah.
And then in a couple of articles, I read that his father apparently spent the last few years of his life in like a psychiatric hospital. And then I also read that his brother, so Gordon's uncle, died in San Quentin while serving a life term for murder.
Oh, his family's just a bunch of real winners.
Yeah, so yeah, basically that's why I wanted to put that in here, because I'm like,
Yeah.
First of all, his father, I don't even know what to make of him. I think Sarah and Gordon are fucked up, and I think they absolutely lied and embellished the supposed abuse that Gordon received.
Yeah.
Maybe
like
he
you can't
was...
fucking tell. Like that's the annoying thing. Is like he's such an unreliable person that if he says something, like you have nothing logically to determine whether it's true or not. So other than the fact that he repeatedly lies,
Basically.
So, you know, you can't really do much with that information.
But then it's fact that his own uncle died while serving a life term for murder. So it's like, is this whole family just fucking cursed on this side, on like the father's side, or like is it the mother's side as well? Because Sarah, his own mother, is obviously a fucking demon. So I don't know, I wanted to add that in there because I was just like, I don't even fucking know.
Yeah.
It's wild.
It's ridiculous. There's no good apples right now on that side.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
And then I wonder what side, because Sanford and Jesse are awesome. Because Sanford made it out of this horrible situation and actually managed to turn his life around and be an absolutely productive and good member of society.
Right, yeah.
And Jessie is the one that realized her brother was in trouble and went down there and helped get him out of there.
I wouldn't be surprised if like this is like the part of the family that you don't get to see and you don't go to California. Like that's what it sounds like, and that's the reason. But then again, like he still went down there, so obviously there wasn't that side of the family that was like, hey, no.
Yeah, and then Gordon and his parents moved to British Columbia, but like everyone else is in Saskatchewan, so I don't even know where I'm trying to go with this. I just
it's
thought
just
it was
crazy.
Like, exactly, it is just crazy. Last thing on my like, wrap it up, tie bow on it is Wineville. Wineville is where Gordon lived, built his ranch and his home. They actually ended up changing the name of this town to Miraloma on November 1st, 1930. So that's less than a month after Gordon was executed. And it literally was due to the negative publicity surrounding Gordon and the murders.
It really was. Wow.
But then within the town, they still have a Wineville Avenue, Wineville Road, Wineville Park, and these other like references that are like basically a constant reminder to what you were. But they just overall renamed the city Miraloma.
Okay. Yeah. I could see why. I mean, like they changed it because of the publicity, because like now the name of the town's fucked. But like I'm sure before this asshole came about and made it infamous, like they loved the name of the town and like just was like, this is who we are, and it's a lovely little community. So like keeping the name of the streets, you're like, yeah, that's where we were.
Let's not totally wipe out our history, but let's at least take it back.
Like maintain it as part of the history and like celebrate it, and but we're not that town anymore.
Both Wineville and Miraloma are like great names.
Yeah, I was gonna call it Wine Town, and I'm like, it's not Wine Town.
No, that's just where you and I go. We go to Wine Town.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so the story of Christine and Walter Collins, with all of the details about like the Northcotts and those trials and everything, all of that we have today is because of a journalist named J. Michael Straczynski. And he wrote for the Times and Herald Examiner. So basically, he had been tipped off by a former source to these transcripts from a city council hearing about the Collins case. And he had gone to the like city and the court, and he just started digging through the archives.
Mm-hmm.
And upon all of the stuff that he was discovering with the Collins case, he quickly grew fascinated by Christine's story, and he spent a year sifting through and reading through newspapers and records and just piecing everything together.
Mm-hmm.
So he's actually the reason we have so much of this information.
That's some great fucking work right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he ultimately went from a journalist to a screenwriter when he wrote a script detailing Christine's search for her son and the events that ensued. And that script ended up in the hands of producers Brian Grazer and Ron Howard, who then took the script to Clint Eastwood. And Straczynski had strategically placed headlines from the newspapers of the day throughout his script. And when Clint Eastwood read it, he was like hooked.
Yeah.
He was like, this story is amazing. So Clint Eastwood had actually said that the story he was reading, the script that was based on reality, reminded him of these amazing women that he had seen in movies growing up in the 1940s. Like women like Betty Davis and Ingrid Bergman, like Bergman.
Okay.
Jesus. All of these like amazing ladies. These like leading role, very like dramatic, strong women.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2008, Clint Eastwood's movie, Changeling, was released.
Oh.
And it had Angelina Jolie starring as Christine Collins.
Nice.
And
that's like peak fame Angelina Jolie.
Right?
Yeah.
Same with me. I'm struggling to say names for some reason. It just reminds me how in part 1 you were saying when we were like speculating on what it would have been like for 3 weeks to live with this fucking kid that you know isn't yours. Yeah. And you had been saying that's a changeling.
Yeah.
And I assumed you didn't know the movie.
I didn't. Changeling. I had no idea.
So I was like,
I don't know movies, Brianna. I don't know if you haven't noticed this. But
no, that's why it's like I'm not going to say anything because I don't think he knows what he's saying. But there's probably people listening that's like, whoa, I know a movie called Changeling.
Yeah. I don't think he knows what he's saying. It's true.
But yeah, there's Angelina Jolie that was cast as Christine Collins. And then you know how in part 1 I was talking about that reverend who had his little, he's like a pioneer evangelist talking about his like dramatic radio station. Yeah. Guess who played him in the movie?
Samuel L. Jackson.
No, it was a white man.
Oh. Who?
John Malkovich.
Oh my God. That's great.
Yeah. So as research for the Changeling, research for Changeling, Clint Eastwood had a historian from the Riverside Historical Society take him to the Northcott Ranch. And Eastwood said, quote, "It was creepy. It looks exactly the same, though the house has been slightly modified. We went around back and there were these chicken coops. I don't know if they were the same ones, but they were old. They were very rustic chicken coops."
Ugh. That's gotta send fucking chills down your spine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So while Clint Eastwood was on the property, he said that like no one appeared to be home because, like he said, obviously someone still lived there. The only thing that changed was the house wasn't better.
Clint Eastwood just wandered onto someone's property.
So that's what Clint Eastwood said. He said he decided not to knock on the door and intrude on their life because he didn't know how they would feel about having Clint Eastwood show up on their doorstep and announce that they lived in the former home of Gordon Northcott.
I gotta be honest, this is more upsetting to look out your window and see Clint Eastwood just sneaking about.
Why is he looking at my chicken coops?
Yeah, staring at your chicken coops like you're like, oh no. Oh no.
Oh no.
What has he got?
Clint Eastwood trespassing?
Why does he look scared? Why does he look scared and lurking around my chicken coop?
Many people, the LAPD and Clint Eastwood included, and you know what? I'll add myself in there.
Okay.
They believe that Walter was killed on the Northcott Ranch.
Yeah.
Despite no trace of him being found there, I do think that he was. The fact that they could link the Winslow brothers and Alvin Gothea to the ranch, and both of them being from the LA area, knowing that Gordon Northcott was cruising the different suburbs and neighborhoods of LA, I do think it's totally possible that, sadly, Walter was one of the victims.
Yeah.
Plus, Sanford's testimony lines up so well with the other boys, and he separately identified. It wasn't sort of fed to him in any way. He identified Walter.
Yeah.
As one of the boys that had been on the ranch. So.
Yeah. I 100% agree that it's just, and it's not like Walter didn't like his mom and wouldn't like be like, hey, like years later, like I'm right here.
Exactly.
You know, and if you think that he wasn't murdered, then he would have had to been abducted in a separate case or something like that in order for that to make sense. And that's a very intricate, complicated story to hold on to. It's way more likely he was murdered.
And the point you make about him, the point you made about if he did happen to like run away or something like that and him never come home, that's a good point to make because his case did garner so much attention.
Yeah.
It literally went nationwide. As we know, Arthur assumed his identity because all the way out on like the Mid-East, basically, coast in Illinois.
Someone was like, hey, you sure look like that kid that's gone missing. Yeah.
I can't imagine Walter doing that to his mother.
No.
I think sadly he was taken the day he was last seen and ended up on the ranch. Really sad, but I am amongst those people who believe that happened.
Yeah.
Sadly, as we know, Christine didn't believe this. She really, really maintained that hope that her son was alive. And she continued to search for him while also trying to get her life back on track. She had gone through these lawsuits, these trials, everything. And she wanted to just spend her energy finding her son while also continuing to campaign for the release of her husband. She never stopped doing that.
Right.
That campaigning for the release of her husband did stop on August 16th, 1932, after Walter Sr. had died in the hospital, a prison hospital, after suffering from atrophy of the liver brought on by jaundice.
Wow, okay. Jaundice is like...
Jaundice is when your liver atrophies.
Yeah. No, but like, isn't that... Was he drinking?
I don't think he... Well, I mean, he could have been drinking in the fucking 1920s and 30s in prison.
Yeah, that's what I was like.
You can also have, like...
You can still get jaundice from other things. Okay.
Yeah, you can get jaundice from other
more
things.
More or less liver failure.
Different, like, blood poisonings, infections, and stuff like that. But nowadays, if you heard someone had jaundice, it is likely because their liver is so... The toxicity in their liver is so bad from drinking. But... I don't. Who knows in the 30s? Yeah.
It's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, so she had stopped, obviously, campaigning for the release because he passed. 36 years after her son went missing, Christine passed away in Los Angeles on December 8th, 1964, just shy of her 76th birthday. Christine is a symbol of a woman who endures everything for the love of her family. She was a steadfast, determined, composed woman, all while being surrounded by these people, these monsters that had this agenda that strayed so far from the only thing that ever mattered to her and the only thing that she ever continuously fought for, which was finding her son. This story that I've told you over 2 parts weaves terrifying true tales of missing children, a serial killer, impersonation, police corruption, coercion, false imprisonment, psychiatric abuse, and lengthy court battles. Literally all the fuckery.
Yeah, all the fuckery right there.
But the only thing that this tale does not weave is a real resolution for Christine, because there was never any trace of her missing 9-year-old son, Walter Collins. None of that was ever found.
Mm-hmm.
There's also no resolution for the other families because no remains were found. And the fucking assholes who were essentially brought to trial and tried and all of that aren't reliable.
Right.
They're terrible witnesses.
Yeah.
And terrible suspects.
They're intentionally deceiving.
Exactly. So you have this story that has all these very complicated moving parts and all of the O.J. Simpson drama of its day, but there's no real resolution.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, that's it.
Yeah. Well, I just have one thing to say, and it's how dare you bring a story to rival my favorite stories right after we played them as best ofs.
Really?
Yeah, I love this story. This is a fantastic story. It's got everything. It's got so much ridiculous shit going on, but throughout the entire story, you've got this woman who's just basically like a shining beacon.
She's
That's just
amazing.
going through this and like being an amazing human being.
Mm-hmm.
And you got another victim as well who goes back to Canada and ends up being a incredible
Mm-hmm.
addition to a community out there, and it's just a gem. So anyway, I loved it.
Yeah, I am glad you liked it.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things where it's like, I am happy this is a good episode.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I'm just so sad for Christine.
It's fucking brutal.
I'm like, oh my God, I fucking hate Gordon and Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
I hate them. They are demons. Those are not people.
Yeah.
Those are absolutely disgusting
Yeah.
excuses for a human.
Mm-hmm.
But at least we can tell this story nearly 100 years later.
Mm-hmm.
And just talk about Christine, who is this, like you're saying, this like shining beacon in this horrible story.
Yeah.
She's so just determined, steadfast, composed, all of that. She just won't ever deviate from her objective, which is, I need to find my son.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the story.
It's a good story.
I hope that all of you listening, I know Dyson, you did enjoy this 2-part deep dive into the disappearance of Walter Collins, the Wineville murders, and Christine's fight to find her son, and her fight to hold corrupt people accountable for their actions.
Mm-hmm.
I know you did enjoy that, Dyson, and I hope everyone else did
Mm-hmm.
listening. Yeah, Dyson, anything else you want to add, or anything else you think about this case, or what?
No, I thought you did an amazing job.
You think it's just another case to rival your OG favorite?
It
of
rivals Pig Woman.
the
I
Pig
don't.
Woman?
The Hall Mills murders were amazing for Pig Woman, but I think this is just as a whole a stronger episode. I just think this is now one of my favorites.
Basically, what you're saying is any episode from like this jazz age is
Seems to be
what
the trend.
you
Yeah,
want to hear.
it's not intentional.
Maybe
But
we
yeah.
have to listen back to episode 7, part 1 and 2, and then you can decide exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know what? This part 2 of this is the last episode of April.
Yeah.
And guess what?
What?
In May, people can expect a sort of like new Dark Adaptation segment that I plan on introducing into their feeds.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. It'll also be on a weekly basis, but I don't really want to say too much because that's the fun of it.
All right.
Yeah.
Some intrigue. Mystery.
To see photos related to this case and all the cases that we cover here at Dark Adaptation, you can follow us on Instagram at Dark Adaptation Podcast. To see our sources, buy us a coffee, or check out our merch, you can visit our website, darkadaptationpodcast.ca. And thank you for tuning in. And guess what?
What?
Catch you on the dark side.
Ooh. Bye.
Ooh.